Good morning, everyone. How are we? Good. Are you ready to learn about privacy? This exciting topic. I'm starting off the conference with privacy. But no, actually, I think this is something that fits perfectly in with what Rohit was saying. COVID-19, we have already learning from research that we're doing with consumers, has had the exact effect that Rohit mentioned, which is more and more consumers are structuring their lives around digital. They're structuring their lives and behavior online. This comes with a greater awareness, not only of their own power to demand the services, demand the customization and personalization from brands that Rohit mentioned, but also at a growing awareness of how their information is being collected and used online, and therefore a growing need around privacy. So this topic is absolutely vital to all businesses right now, and also, just as Rohit said, it's not just about right now, this moment, but setting our businesses up for success moving forward is about what this privacy moment and investments in privacy are all about. My name is Mike. I'm in charge of external engagement for ads privacy for Google Apac. And I'm extremely excited to be here today to talk to you guys about privacy, specifically about two topics. Number one, why privacy matters for Indonesian businesses, why you all should care in this room. And number two, about our perspective as a company on what privacy-forward investments look like and how businesses can be prepared. So let's jump in. Why does privacy matter for Indonesia? Let's start with some information about what Indonesian businesses are saying. We conducted some research with BCG earlier this year, interviewing a number of Indonesian businesses. 61%, so nearly 2/3 of them, indicated that as of today, they believe that privacy is of critical importance to their own customers, to their own users. And there are already indications that, again, as I said, because of COVID-19, this is an underestimation, that users are actually ahead of businesses in their awareness and how much they care about privacy. But 61% is not trivial. Furthermore, nearly all of the respondents that we asked agreed that not being privacy ready would have severe consequences for their businesses. In particular, they were concerned about loss of revenue, compromised information from data breaches and security, and then costs down the road for technology fixes that they would have to make. And this aligns fundamentally with what we're hearing on a global and regional level from users as well. We know that people are increasingly concerned about how their online information gets collected and used for advertising. Nearly 50% of users today tell us that they're not satisfied with the amount of privacy that they have online. Users fundamentally need to know that the data that they share with businesses is safe and secure. But that's table stakes. They also want to know, over and above that their data is being used in the proper way, and that they can trust brands to keep to maintain the privacy expectation and the trust that they put into them. What we also know, however, on the other hand over here, is that they are increasingly demanding personalization and customization. So when BCG asked customers, 3/4 of them mentioned that they only want to have experiences online that are relevant and personal to them. So we in the digital advertising space are in a bit of a catch-22 right now. On the one hand, how do we provide the customization, the personalization that users are telling us that they demand, while on the other hand, ensuring that we're able to provide a safe and private experience. That's the challenge that's in front of us today. And the changing user expectations are really only the beginning, because right now the entire digital ecosystem is undergoing a fundamental paradigm shift. And it's happening in both the regulatory and the technological environments in which all of our businesses are finding themselves. So it's not a surprise to anyone in this room that governments, not only around the world, but in Southeast Asia, in Asia, are increasingly being more active in defining what constitutes personal information, how businesses can collect personal information, how businesses can store personal information. And that's raising the bar for all of us, maybe not in this market right now, right today, but we know that this is coming in the future. This is on an upward trend that's not going to go back. At the same time, businesses, i.e. technology businesses, are responding to this pressure as well by restricting the number of signals and the amount of data that can be used. So what all of these things mean, user pressure, or rising user expectations, changing regulatory environment, changing technological environment, is that all of us in this room can expect that individual user-level identifiers will become more and more scarce as time goes on. Different businesses, we're already seeing that different businesses are coming up with different approaches to these pressures. And I think we can basically put them into 3 buckets. Some businesses are taking what we would consider to be a little bit of a brute force approach, restricting identifiers by default. And while that has some advantages of immediacy and speed, we're already seeing that in response, particularly in the mobile environment, in response to brute force restrictions on user-level identifier availability, the rise of opaque techniques such as fingerprinting that are hard to police and that may harm user privacy and user trust in the long run. Another approach is to develop improved ways, improved technologies and techniques to continue to do user-level identification moving forward. And while these, again, by their very nature are improved, and in many ways are more secure than the third-party cookies and mobile identifiers that we may have today, there's at least some doubt as to whether, because of their very nature as user-level identifiers, whether they will continue to be durable and sustainable in the future. So the approach that we're taking at Google is to try to find a third way. Is there a way to develop new technology and new techniques and innovate in order to accomplish the same things that we in the digital marketing space accomplish with identifiers today, but with new signals that accomplish these things in a way that does not rely on individual identifiers and doesn't rely on this sort of cross-web, cross-app tracking. That's the position that we're trying to stake out. Which kind of brings me to transition. Sort of what are we looking at in terms of what privacy-forward investment looks like for the future and how businesses can be prepared? And I kind of want to start with framing this as the opportunity. What is the opportunity that privacy readiness and investments in privacy readiness can present to businesses today? The first one, and a big part of it, is that this moment, this privacy-first moment, is an opportunity for brands to build trust with their users. We know the Edelman 2020 Trust Barometer told us that brand trust is the second most important factor that users use when they're making purchasing decisions. This is second only to price. Furthermore, when a user trusts a brand, they're twice as willing to share their personal information. And so developing user trust creates a virtuous cycle in the privacy-first era where users will provide more information, and this provided first-party data and information becomes the foundation for better personalization that builds user trust. And so this is sort of like when we talk about the digital transformation aspect of privacy readiness, you could bucket this under the user experience component. Are you having transparent communication with your users about what data you're collecting, how it's going to be used? Are you giving users control over that data? Do they feel like they're in control? And do they feel like that data is being used in a way that's valuable? The value exchange is apparent to them in the form of personalization and customization. So this is the first opportunity as we see it. And unlocking customer trust through sort of this transparent communication really is only the beginning. We see two other areas in the form of first-party data and machine learning that when you strengthen them as a business have real potential to unlock business growth. I'll start with first-party data. As I said before, because of the regulatory environment changing, because of the technological environment changing, third-party cookies and other identifiers will increasingly become more scarce and difficult to use even when they're present. And so direct consented, directly and transparently collected first-party data is only going to become more important with time. And we know that there are benefits to this as well. So another BCG study I'm quoting here, when companies integrate all of their sources of first-party data, they see a 2 times incremental revenue gain from a single ad placement or communication, and a 1.5 times improvement in cost efficiency over companies that haven't integrated their first-party data sources. And I've, speaking of being back in the room in person again, I've done a few of these events across Southeast Asia in recent months, and customers from CPG, from auto, from a number of verticals that you might not expect have come up to me and said, 2x, 1.5x, you're lowballing it. When they integrate all of their first-party data sources, I've heard numbers as high as 4x, which is what we found in this case study with Kia. Kia, again, auto vertical, not traditionally known for having really, really strong first-party data capability. They worked with the agency Media Monks to strengthen their ability to collect and process their first-party data. They did this in 2 ways. First, Media Monks worked with them to add direct EC capability, e-commerce capabilities on their corporate site, therefore increasing the number of touch points that they had with their customers to collect the data. And then they integrated their CRM data from across both dealerships and corporate into a single cloud environment. And when they plugged that data into Google's customer match feature that allows them to then activate on that data across our owned and operated media, they saw an increase in 4 times in their conversion rate, a 55% increase in their new user engagement, and a whopping 268% increase in CTR. So, while increasing capability in something like first-party data is an investment, it's becoming increasingly clear that that investment has a positive ROI for businesses. And it's something that we shouldn't be afraid of. The next area of investment that we want to talk about is machine learning. And it matters now more than ever, even today, before the deprecation of third-party cookies from Chrome. It matters more now than ever because even today, individual identifiers are on the decline. And all of the capabilities, if you're doing multi-touch attribution today, you already know how difficult this is becoming. We're developing more and more holes in our granular user-level identifier-based ability to analyze and measure our users. Machine learning is the best way that we know of today to plug those holes. Again, BCG study here found that campaigns that were enhanced with machine learning also generated a 35% increase in efficiency as well. Another example of this, L'Oreal in Taiwan, they wanted to better understand what the relationship was between online site visits and online engagement and primarily their offline, obviously, sales through their brick and mortar. So they brought together their online engagement information from Google Analytics 360, their CRM data, their offline CRM data, their point of sale data, brought it together in a cloud instance, and then started analyzing it with one of the out-of-the-box available APIs called AutoML. And they were able to determine and model through that action at least the temporal relationship between when an online visit happened and then how long from that, on average, a customer would purchase. And so by doing that, they're able to develop segments that they could use to activate users at the moment when they're most likely to purchase offline, and thus drive increased offline sales from their online campaigns, making them more efficient, more targeted, and more importantly, in line with their consumer behaviors that they were able to understand through machine learning. So if everything above sounds theoretical to you, if everything sounds like, okay, well, this is something that just Google is talking about, the good news that I have for you is the best practices for this kind of digital transformation, for this kind of privacy readiness investment, already exist today. They already exist out in the wild. Companies, consultancies such as BCG, such as Deloitte, such as Forrester and others have been doing this research for a while, and it's available online. So, if it's anything from investing in technology solutions, exploring cloud storage for your business, exploring machine learning APIs that are integrated with your cloud solutions. If it's about exploring your data infrastructure, bringing everything together into a single source of truth, or investigating new measurement solutions that are more statistically and machine learning driven. These are all steps in this business transformation journey that you can start to take today, and the information and the knowledge is out there. Okay, realize that this is a lot of information, and talking about these kinds of digital transformation and business transformation investments sounds like a lot of work. It sounds like a huge undertaking. And it is, it's hard. But what I fundamentally believe is that navigating this shift to privacy first in our industry is also a major, major opportunity. And, so technology as ingrained as third-party cookies and as user-level identifiers, moving away from that is going to be hard. But it reminds me a lot of when our industry moved to a mobile first, right? We're experiencing the same sort of patterns. First, we as an industry ignored the fact that consumers were shifting to mobile first. Then we understood that, but we resisted changing our practices and changing our methods because those were so ingrained. But eventually, when we as an industry caught on to the fact that this is where the future was, and we made the necessary investments to get there, it fueled a decade of growth for all of us. And I see privacy and investing in privacy readiness in exactly the same way. Google's position here, and our goal, is by working with the industry to become privacy ready together, that we will be able to create and maintain the ad-supported ecosystem that has already led to the trillions and trillions of dollars of economic value that Rohit already mentioned, right? But in order to do that, it has to be safer for users. It has to be more private for users. At the same time, it has to continue to be successful for publishers to monetize via advertising. And it also has to have the potential within it for businesses to efficiently expand their customer base and drive growth by reaching new customers online through advertising. So this is why Google is not only in environments like this, really, really encouraging the industry to make the investments that are needed to be privacy first, but then ourselves also working to try to develop the technologies and the techniques that are going to help the industry move forward. A big part of our philosophy on this, and I'm coming to you from the ad side of our business, but speaking on behalf of Chrome and Android here for a moment, a big part of Google's sort of philosophy and solution to this problem is represented in the idea of the privacy sandbox, right? Which has this very ambitious goal, which is to re-architect some of the most fundamental technical building blocks of the digital ads ecosystem in a way that's privacy safe and that respects user anonymity. This works by developing new APIs for use cases such as anti-fraud, such as interest-based ads, remarketing, conversion measurement, et cetera, that are powered today via user-level identifiers, but that leveraging things like on-device processing, leveraging techniques like differential privacy, we could potentially create new signals, new APIs that would allow us to accomplish the same marketing activities without relying on the identifier. And I want to pause here just really, really quickly. Like, what's the matter with the identifier? Why is the cookie such a bad thing? Right? Philosophically, for me, it comes down to the idea of user consent and user trust that we talked about before. When a user goes to a website and they agree to provide their data to a brand, to a website, it's an intuitive thing to expect that I'm going to Nike.com, Nike's going to have my data, I'm allowing Nike to use it specifically in a way that is personalized and customized and gives value to me. But if I'm just any other user, and I come from the ad tech world, so believe me, I get this, but if I'm just a user going to Nike.com, can I meaningfully consent to this idea that a brand that I don't know the name of, that exists not just on Nike, but on multiple sites across the internet, that has the ability to reconstruct my browsing history and reconstruct things about me, can I meaningfully consent to that? Just by clicking accept cookies? I don't think so. And fundamentally, that's, I think, where Google is coming from. When we are saying that we're trying, like, that the third-party cookie, that the mobile identifier, these individual identifiers that track users across sites, across apps, across the web, that's what we're trying to get away from. And we think if we can solve that we can address some of the most fundamental issues that users have with that satisfaction with their privacy online. So that's the big bet via the Privacy Sandbox. And beyond that, and beyond some of the sort of the larger business transformation work that I already mentioned above, we also sort of like have compiled a much more tactical 3-step model for businesses. If you're concerned with how to future-proof your Google spend today, for example, here are 3 steps that you can take. And we've structured around the 3 steps of build, measure, and activate. And markers today are sort of, we're talking them through this process of adopting these 3 things in order to at least future-proof tactically, without a whole lot of extra investment, the platforms that you're already working on. So build is about building a direct relationship with your client, with your customers based on responsibly gathered first-party data. Measure is ensuring your measurement remains accurate, flexible, and actionable, and durable by integrating machine learning. And then activate is about driving business objectives and keeping your ads relevant with automation. All 3 of these things being the durable techniques that we believe are about privacy readiness in the future. I'm not going to go into super detail on this because it's really not that important for this room. But the idea is we should be able, if you're working with a platform such as Google or any of the other big platforms, they should at least be able to make available to you on this platform what are the features that you can adopt in the short term, today, to help make your spend more durable. And so if you're spending money with Google and these features or these names up on screen aren't familiar to you, then maybe we haven't done our job. And please, I encourage you to reach out to your account managers to learn more about these. Okay, so I've left a bunch of time for questions. I'm super eager to hear about from anybody in this room in terms of your questions about privacy, your questions about Google, or of any of the announcements that we've recently made. But that's the presentation for now. Thank you very much.